Senator Ted Cruz, thank you so much. We appreciate it. So,
Jack, great to be with you.
so we now know you're going to be facing Congressman Colin Allred in November. How do you frame this race?
Well, listen, I think it's a clear contrast between different policy visions. I've spent 12 years fighting for the people of Texas, fighting for jobs in Texas, fighting for security, keeping our families safe, and fighting for our freedoms, fighting for our constitutional rights. And I got to say, Congressman Allred has a record, and it is a far left record that is far out of step with the people of Texas. If you look at today's Democrat Party in Washington, D.C., Congressman Allred has voted 100% with Nancy Pelosi, 100% with Joe Biden. And that's a policy agenda that Texans don't agree with. It's hurting Texans. And Congressman Allred has supported Joe Biden's open borders that is devastating the state of Texas. He has supported the massive spending and debt that is driving inflation through the roof. And he supported soft on crime policies, releasing violent criminals from jail that are jeopardizing the lives of Texas families. And I believe this is a real choice between what direction our state goes. I think Texans want to keep Texas, Texas. And what we're doing in the state of Texas is working. There's a reason people want to be in the state of Texas. Texas is where the jobs are. And in Texas, we defend the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. I think the Washington Democrats are far out of step with those common sense values.
You've launched Democrats for Cruz coalition. What is behind this? What is this all about? And why are you doing it?
Well, I'm blessed to have been endorsed by Democrats across the state who look at what's happening in Washington. And today's Democrat Party in Washington is not the Democrat Party of old. I'm supported by Democrats who say, look, we want a senator who fights for jobs, who fights for energy, who supports law enforcement, who supports border security. You know, tonight at the State of the Union, my guest is going to be Sheriff Danny Dominguez. Sheriff Dominguez is the sheriff of Presidio County. That's down in South Texas. That's right on the Rio Grande River. Sheriff Dominguez has been an elected Democrat for 28 years. And he's coming tonight. He's endorsed me as a member of our coalition, Democrats for Cruz, because he says he wants a senator who supports law enforcement and who will secure the border. And he's seeing this crisis unfolding. And it's hurting his county. It's hurting all of South Texas. It's hurting the entire state. And we're seeing that pattern over and over and over again. Another member of the coalition, Marty McVeigh, was appointed in the Obama administration to a senior position at USAID. He's supporting me because he wants a senator who fights for jobs and who fights for small business and who fights for energy. And unfortunately, the Biden administration has waged a war on Texas oil and gas, Texas energy, and that's hurting the people of Texas. And so I think we've got a real divide in terms of a vision for our state and a vision for our people.
Are you doing this to blunt and counter any Republicans who may vote for Allred?
Well, listen, it's interesting. Allred's talking point, which Congressman Allred is very fond of, is he says how bipartisan he is. But at the same time, he's voted 100% with Nancy Pelosi. And he just had the opportunity a couple of weeks ago. Joe Biden got very angry at the state of Texas because Texas is fighting to secure our border. If the federal government is not going to do it, Texas is standing up and trying to keep Texas safe and secure. And Biden, in response to that, banned all new permits for exporting LNG, liquid natural gas. That was designed, frankly, to be a screw you to the state of Texas, to hurt jobs in the state of Texas. And when that happened, shortly thereafter, the House of Representatives, they voted on legislation to reverse that. And Colin Allred decided he stood with Joe Biden and the Democrats against Texas, against jobs, against affordable energy. That is a pattern that he can say he's bipartisan all he wants, but the proof is in the pudding. He consistently votes for an extreme agenda that is out of touch with the people of Texas. And my record at this point has been for 12 years consistently fighting and delivering results. I've authored and passed 98 different pieces of legislation into law. A big victory that I just had a couple of months ago was legislation that I authored that expedited the permitting on 4 new bridges in South Texas, bridges across the Rio Grande River from Texas to Mexico. You know, Texas and Mexico do every year about $800 billion in trade and commerce. And the Biden administration was stonewalling the permitting for these bridges. I passed legislation to speed them up by several years, have been down in South Texas. I just did a town hall in Laredo with the mayor of Laredo, a Democrat, with the county judge in Webb County, a Democrat. And we were all talking about the importance of these bridges for jobs in the state of Texas. That's actually a record of fighting for jobs and delivering results. And I think it contrasts Congressman Allred's record, which is standing with Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden and supporting policies that are really harmful for jobs in Texas.
One of the issues that Congressman Allred is amplifying in his campaign is reproductive rights. And he has highlighted 2 Dallas women who had very troubled pregnancies and they had to leave the state of Texas to get an abortion. Um, is that fair? How do you respond to that? He's making that a very big issue and he's criticizing you for your policies.
Well, listen, Democrats nationally have decided that they want a demagogue when it comes to abortion. And abortion is an issue that Americans struggle with, that people of good conscience have differing views. What the Supreme Court has done is it has sent the decision to the states. It's sent the decision to elected representatives. And I think that's the right approach. It's consistent with the Constitution. It recognizes that the people of Texas are going to make different decisions in the state legislature than the people of California will or the people of New York will, and that every state will balance these very difficult issues. You look at the situation of Kate Cox, what happened with her was tragic. It was heartbreaking. She and her husband wanting a child and losing that child. That was a tragic situation, and it's one the Texas Supreme Court called on the state medical board to address when you have a crisis pregnancy like that. How to address it. I think that's important, but I think it's also worth noting, Jack, that if you look at the views of Colin Allred, they are so extreme on abortion that they are completely out of touch with the values of Texas. So Colin Allred supports unlimited abortion on demand, literally until the moment of birth, partial birth abortion, with full taxpayer funding, with no parental consent and no parental notification. That's an extreme view. That's Nancy Pelosi's view. That's Joe Biden's view. But that is the view nationally of about 9% of Americans. 91% of Americans disagree with that extreme view. And I'll point out there's a real difference in our records. On my part, I think we should leave it to the states to make those determinations, to respect that different people of good conscience have different views. What is Colin Allred's view? He's voted for legislation that would strike down every single law in the country protecting life, that would legalize partial birth abortion, that would strike down parental consent and parental notification. That's really an extreme view. And as I said, it is not where the people of Texas are.
And just following up on the Kate Cox situation, do you think that the state should change its laws in these cases?
Well, the state law that the state legislature has passed provides an exception if there is a serious threat to the mother's health and to her reproductive health. And so the Supreme Court said in its decision, the Texas Supreme Court asked the Texas Medical Board to address precisely these circumstances where you have a crisis pregnancy. And I think it's important for the Texas Medical Board to do that. And I think those determinations should be made at the state legislature and with the Texas Medical Board accepting that invitation from the Texas Supreme Court.
I wanted to talk about the border, and obviously you had mentioned some of this before. I remember, though, that Congressman Allred voted for a Republican resolution in the U.S. House, which was very sharply critical of President Biden's policies. So how can you say he's radical left, and yet at the same time, he did that?
Well, what he voted for was just a few weeks ago a resolution that said it's a crisis. So he's finally acknowledged what's happening. But what he hadn't been willing to do is vote for anything to fix it. So he's voted against securing the border. He's voted against deporting even criminal illegal aliens that assault police officers. He's voted against deporting them. He has consistently been a rubber stamp for Joe Biden's open borders. And so I understand now he's running statewide, and it's occurred to him, gosh, I need to say that there's a problem. But when it comes to doing anything to fix it, and you know who he's completely unwilling to call out and put the blame is on Joe Biden, because he supports Joe Biden 100% of the time. And understand this. Look, Joe Biden came into office just over 3 years ago. He inherited success. Joe Biden inherited the lowest rate of illegal immigration in 45 years. What we were doing was working. I worked hand in hand with President Trump to secure the border, and we had achieved remarkable success. And all Joe Biden had to do was nothing, just not screw it up. And instead, President Biden deliberately broke the border. He made 3 decisions his first week in office that caused this crisis. He immediately halted construction of the border wall, which Colin Allred supported. He reinstated the disastrous policy of catch and release, which Colin Allred supports. And he pulled out of the incredibly successful Remain in Mexico agreement, which is how we had lowered the numbers to historic lows. Again, Colin Allred supported all 3 of those decisions. And even now, he's not willing to make the very obvious point that if Joe Biden made 3 unilateral decisions to cause this crisis, he could reverse those decisions today and fix this crisis. And yet, Congressman Allred, it is 100% of the time a partisan with Washington Democrats. And that record, I think, is not where the people of Texas are.
Senator Ted Cruz, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jack.